The golden calf. We could say the golden calf is the result of the biggest collective meltdown in the Old Testament. Moses went up Mount Sinai to get the rules straight from God, but he took a little longer than expected. The people, having zero patience, went into full panic mode. Their genius solution: gather all the gold they brought from Egypt, melt it down, and forge a metal cow. The best part is the excuse from Aaron, who was left in charge. He literally told Moses he just threw the jewelry into the fire and the calf came out on its own. When Moses came down the mountain and saw this bizarre desert rave going on, he was so furious he just smashed the original tablets of the 10 Commandments on the ground. And the punishment was no joke. Moses melted the idol, ground it into dust, threw it in the water, and made everyone drink it. A very indigestible gold juice to prove that trying to make a pet god came with a lethal price tag. In the end, the rebellion resulted in the massacre of 3,000 people. The Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was basically a radioactive gold box. The power level there was so absurd that there was only one rule: you touch it, you get one-shotted, instant death. Anyone who thought it'd be a good idea to take a peek inside would have their face melted off instantly. Total Indiana Jones vibes. Once, the Philistines thought it would be a great idea to steal the Ark as a spoil of war. Worst mistake of their lives. Everywhere the box went, the whole city would break out in bizarre tumor epidemics. The desperation hit so hard that they literally shipped the Ark back to Israel as fast as possible, even throwing in some little golden gifts just to get rid of the curse. Even the Israelites themselves were terrified of getting near it without the proper ritual. Ultimately, the Ark functioned like a weapon of mass destruction that took absolutely no prisoners. The bronze serpent. Imagine creating a miracle cure, and years later people start praying to the cure itself. That's exactly what happened with the bronze serpent. During a plague of venomous snakes in the desert, God told Moses to make a metal serpent and put it on a pole. Anyone who got bitten and looked at it was instantly healed. The problem is, these guys had an absurd tendency for idolatry. Centuries later, the Israelites kept the pole and started treating the metal snake like a god, burning incense to it and even giving it a name: Nehushtan. Things got so out of hand that King Hezekiah had to step in and destroy the sacred artifact, smashing it to pieces. A relic that saved thousands of lives ended up becoming a cursed object just because of the people's own ignorance. The 30 pieces of silver. The 30 pieces of silver represent the dirtiest betrayal payout in history. Judas Iscariot sold Jesus out for this amount, but the guilt hit him so fast and so hard that he tried to return the silver. The bizarre detail here is that the temple priests, who had orchestrated the whole scheme, refused to put the coins in the sacred treasury. The reason was simple: it was considered blood money, literally cursed and impure. The cash was so stained with guilt that the only use they found for it was buying an abandoned plot of land, the so-called Potter's Field, where clay was extracted. The place would only be used to bury foreigners and the homeless. But the story gets even heavier. It was exactly on this plot of land that Judas, consumed by remorse, brought a tragic end to his own story. The place became known as the Field of Blood, forever marking the destiny of a treasure that absolutely nobody wanted in their pockets. Elijah's mantle. Elijah's mantle was a rustic cloak made of animal hair, but it worked as a direct channel to divine power. Just to give you an idea of the power level we're talking about, Elijah used this piece of clothing to strike the waters of the Jordan River, and the river literally split right down the middle so he could walk across on dry land. But the weight of this artifact was insane. When Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind of fire, the mantle fell to his disciple, Elisha. The catch is that whoever wore that cloak didn't just get supernatural powers. They took on the incredibly heavy burden of being God's main spokesperson. And we're talking about an era where kings hunted and killed prophets for sport. So, wearing the mantle wasn't a prize. It was literally painting a giant target on your back for the rest of your life. Goliath's sword. Goliath's sword wasn't just a giant weapon. It was the most macabre trophy in the Old Testament. After David took down the giant with a slingshot, he grabbed the guy's own sword to cut off his head. But instead of this colossal weapon being destroyed or left on the battlefield, look at the bizarre destiny it had. The sword was wrapped in a cloth and kept right in the tabernacle, which was simply the holiest place in Israel at the time. It stayed there under the care of the priests. Years later, when David was on the run from King Saul and desperately needed a weapon to survive, the priest handed him exactly that sword. So, an object forged by an enemy and used in a brutal decapitation ended up becoming an unlikely relic, stored in the very house of God. Achan's treasure. Achan's treasure is yet another example that taking forbidden loot in the Old Testament went very wrong. When the Israelites destroyed the city of Jericho, God's rule was that everything inside was cursed and had to be destroyed. But a guy named Achan saw a designer Babylonian cloak, some silver, and a gold bar, and thought it would be a great idea to hide it all under his own tent. The result, as you can probably guess, was disastrous. Because of this theft, a curse fell over the entire camp, and Israel took a humiliating beatdown in their next war. When the investigation went down and they found the stash, Achan and his whole family were executed in the middle of the desert. A fancy cloak and a little bit of gold that cost everyone their lives. Gideon's golden ephod. Gideon's golden ephod proves that even the biggest heroes in the Bible had some terrible ideas. After winning an impossible war, Gideon asked for the gold earrings of the defeated enemies. He gathered almost 40 pounds of pure gold, melted it all down, and made an ephod, which was like a sacred vest worn by priests. His intention was just to create a memorial of the victory. But, as you already know, the people of Israel had an absurd addiction to idolatry. It took no time at all for the people to start praying to the golden vest as if it were a god, kind of like what happened with the serpent. The biblical text says the object became a literal snare, and what was supposed to be a war trophy ended up becoming a curse that ruined Gideon's entire legacy and family. The golden mice and tumors. The golden mice and tumors are by far the most bizarre objects anyone has ever forged in the Bible. This is a direct continuation of the Ark of the Covenant story. Remember how the Philistines stole the Ark and suffered from terrible tumor outbreaks? Yeah. When they decided to return the box to Israel in sheer desperation, their priests warned them they couldn't send the artifact back empty-handed. They needed a guilt offering to appease the divine wrath. And you know what genius solution they came up with? They forged 5 golden statues shaped like mice and 5 golden statues shaped like tumors. Yes, golden hemorrhoids. They put these macabre sculptures in a cart along with the ark and sent it away. Imagine the look on the Israelites' faces when they opened up what was inside. I bet nobody wanted to put that as a decoration on their living room shelf. The Cursed Library of Ephesus. Imagine having a book collection worth millions of dollars, but discovering that they attract so much bad energy into your life that the only way out is to set it all on fire. That's exactly what went down in the book of Acts, in the city of Ephesus. The folks there had, let's say, a little thing for magic arts and the occult. But when they turned their lives around and realized the spiritual weight and oppression those objects brought, their reaction was radical. Instead of selling or passing the books along, which would have brought in an absurd fortune, valued at the time at 50,000 pieces of silver, they gathered everything in a public square and made the most expensive bonfire in history. This is proof that sometimes, to get rid of a problem, you literally need to set it on fire. But please, don't try this at home.